Her hands weren't shaking. While everyone in the cafeteria was panicking, 58-year-old Elena Rodriguez's hands weren't shaking at all, as if this situation was just another ordinary Tuesday night for her. "Ma'am, you need to step away from the patient," Dr. Martinez ordered the cafeteria worker kneeling beside the collapsed surgeon. But Elena Rodriguez wasn't listening, because there was something she had been hiding for 8 years. And tonight, that carefully guarded secret was about to be revealed in the most dramatic way possible. This story begins with a woman who spent 8 years making sure no one would discover who she really was. Elena Rodriguez had been working in the Metropolitan Hospital cafeteria department for 8 years. At 58, she had everything you'd want in a cafeteria worker: reliable, quiet, the kind of person you could count on in emergencies. Her supervisor, Sandra Mitchell, had never had a problem with Elena. Elena would arrive early, work quietly, and manage the hospital cafeteria without any personnel issues. But there was something Sandra didn't know about Elena, something no one at the hospital knew. Her choice of this profession wasn't to escape her past, it was to hide it carefully and systematically. And tonight, that past would emerge in the most dramatic way. For 8 years, Elena had been the perfect cafeteria worker, but Sandra had always noticed little things she couldn't quite explain. The way Elena never panicked when faced with medical emergencies, the composure she showed when looking at serious injuries, her ability to predict which patients would deteriorate before they showed obvious signs, and her equipment. Elena always carried supplies beyond standard cafeteria protocols: advanced first aid kits, specialized medical instruments, medications most hospital staff hadn't heard of. When managers asked, Elena would say, "I like to be prepared." When colleagues questioned her, she would smile and change the subject. But the real mystery was Elena herself. No social media presence, no photos from her past, no stories about previous jobs. As if Elena Rodriguez had emerged 8 years ago, fully formed and perfectly trained. What no one knew was that Elena Rodriguez had served 15 years in the United States Army. Not just any Army position, she was a field surgeon, elite of the elite. Army field surgeons aren't just soldiers, they're the world's most advanced combat medical specialists. They receive training that would qualify them as trauma surgeons in civilian hospitals. Elena had completed the Special Forces Medical Training Course, 18 months of intensive training covering everything from field surgery to combat anesthesia. She could perform amputations, thoracotomies, even emergency brain surgery if necessary. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Elena had served in 3 different war zones over 15 years. She had operated under mortar fire, treated blast wounds that would horrify civilian doctors, and saved lives under conditions most people couldn't imagine. Her hands had brought countless soldiers back from the brink of death: 3 Bronze Stars, 2 Purple Hearts, and the respect of every man she'd served alongside. So why had she left that life to become a civilian cafeteria worker? The answer lay hidden in the worst night of her military career. A night she still lived in her nightmares. The night she lost Tommy Hernandez. January 18, 2016, near the Syrian border. Elena's field surgical team was providing medical support for a joint operation with Kurdish forces. The mission had gone wrong from the start: intelligence failures, communication breakdowns, and then the ambush. Elena found herself in a bombed-out school building with 6 wounded soldiers and supplies for maybe 3 surgeries. The nearest medical facility was 40 miles away through enemy territory. For 4 hours, Elena worked miracles. She saved Sergeant Rodriguez with a field thoracotomy, kept Corporal Mitchell alive despite massive blood loss, performed field amputations that saved 2 more soldiers. But then came Tommy Hernandez's case, 19 years old, fresh out of training, a kid from Ohio who'd joined the Army to pay for college. Tommy had taken shrapnel to the chest, a complex injury requiring immediate surgical intervention. Elena worked on Tommy for 2 hours. She opened the boy's chest, tried to repair damage to his heart, pumped blood manually when the electrical system failed. As dawn broke over the Syrian desert, Tommy Hernandez died in Elena's arms. That morning, Elena made a decision that would change her life forever. She would never again be in a position where she had to choose which lives to save. 6 months later, when her tour ended, Elena Rodriguez disappeared from the army, and cafeteria worker Elena Rodriguez was born. That Monday night shift in November started like any other. Elena and Sandra had been working together for 3 years, long enough to completely trust Elena's instincts, but not long enough to understand where those instincts came from. They were working the night shift at Metropolitan Hospital, the city's busiest hospital where most calls involved violence, overdoses, or both. "Elena," Sandra had said as they walked through the neon-lit corridors, "I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" "You never talk about the past, ever. No college stories, no family stories, no back-in-my-day stories. It's like you didn't exist before you started here." Elena gave that mysterious smile Sandra knew well. "Maybe I didn't, Sandra. Maybe my real life started here." "Come on, I'm serious. What did you do before?" "Different jobs," Elena said, her standard answer. "What matters is being here now, helping people." But Sandra persisted. "Different jobs like what? Were you in the military? You move like someone with military training." Elena's hands tightened almost imperceptibly on the clipboard. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious. You have a way of carrying yourself, being aware of everything around you, and you're so calm in crisis situations. Most hospital workers, even experienced ones, get a little adrenaline rush. You just focus." Elena was saved from answering by the crackle of the emergency call system. But Sandra's questions had touched something. For 8 years, she'd managed to keep her 2 lives completely separate. Tonight, that separation would collapse. At 11:47 p.m., the hospital rang with the urgency every first responder knew meant trouble. Code blue, cafeteria section, Dr. Kellerman cardiac arrest, all available medical personnel to cafeteria. Elena moved immediately, but this time was different. From her personal bag, the bag Sandra had never really examined closely, she pulled out equipment she'd never seen her use before. Tactical medical kit with military markings, graduated 4 tubes for rapid blood loss, surgical instruments that gleamed under the cafeteria's interior lights. "Elena, what are those?" "Just being prepared, Sandra. Cardiac arrest can require serious medical intervention." But as they ran down the corridor, Elena was mentally preparing for something else. The military training she'd kept buried for 8 years was suddenly flooding back, systems and protocols, threat assessment, tactical approach, critical patient with probable severe trauma. This wouldn't be a routine call. The scene was chaos. Dr. Kellerman had collapsed on the cafeteria floor, foaming at the mouth, unable to breathe. Nurses were screaming. Residents didn't know what to do. Elena entered the cafeteria and everything changed. Her posture straightened. Her eyes began scanning not just for victims, but for threats. Her movements became precise, efficient, military. Sandra noticed immediately. "Elena, you look different." But Elena was already moving toward the victim, her trained eye rapidly assessing the situation. "Dr. Kellerman. Male, approximately 45, cardiac arrest, difficulty breathing, probable cardiac arrest. These weren't routine injuries. These were trauma cases that would challenge even an experienced emergency room." The nurses began following standard hospital protocols: stabilize, treat, transport. Elena began doing something completely different. Elena knelt beside Dr. Kellerman. Her examination was different from anything Sandra had seen before, systematic, comprehensive, with military precision. "This isn't just cardiac arrest," Elena said, with an authority in her voice Sandra had never heard before. "Full cardiac arrest. We need immediate CPR and defibrillation. Elena, we're not equipped for this. We need to get him to the ER. There's no time." From her tactical kit, Elena pulled out a large syringe, equipment no cafeteria worker should have. "Elena, what is that? Where did you get military-grade medical equipment?" But Elena was already moving. She found the precise anatomical reference point, placed the syringe, and performed a textbook cardiac drug injection. Dr. Kellerman's pulse immediately improved. Sandra stared in shock. "Elena, this is surgical-level intervention. Cafeteria workers don't know this." Elena was already standing, taking control of the situation. "Is there a defibrillator?" "Elena, what are you doing? This isn't medical training." Elena looked at Sandra, her hands still working to save Dr. Kellerman's life. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. The words hit Sandra like a physical blow. Were you in the military? Field surgeon, 15 years. Sandra stepped back, trying to process what she was hearing. Field surgeon? Elena, are you special forces? Elena stood up after stabilizing Dr. Kellerman. I was. Now I'm a cafeteria worker. But these skills, this equipment, this knowledge, you're not just a cafeteria worker, you're a combat surgeon. Elena's hands continued monitoring Dr. Kellerman's condition. Her movements were confident, precise, life-saving. Sandra, I need you to focus. This man could die. I can save him, but I need your help. How can you save him? This is beyond what we're trained for. It's not beyond what I'm trained for. Elena was preparing to restart Dr. Kellerman's heart, a procedure that should only be done in an operating room. In Afghanistan, I performed this operation 17 times under mortar fire. This is actually easier. As she worked, Elena began talking, partly to calm the unconscious patient, partly to explain to Sandra. Special Forces field surgeons train for scenarios where we're the only medical personnel for hundreds of miles. We learn to perform surgery that would challenge civilian doctors. We do it with basic equipment, under enemy fire, with soldiers' lives hanging in the balance. Her hands never stopped moving as she spoke. I've done amputations, brain surgery, cardiac procedures. I've kept men alive who should have died 3 times over. The repair was working. Heart rate was under control. So why are you here? Why work as a cafeteria worker instead of practicing as a surgeon? Elena's face darkened. Because I couldn't save them all. When the hospital team arrived, Dr. Kellerman was stable. Dr. Sarah Chen, trauma surgeon, immediately began examining Elena's work. Who performed these interventions? She asked, with professional respect in her voice. Sandra looked at Elena, still quietly cleaning and packing her equipment. Both of us did, Sandra said, still trying to protect her secret. Dr. Chen picked up one of Elena's instruments, a specialized military surgical tool. This is interesting, she said. This cardiac injection was performed with military precision. The CPR technique follows special operations medical protocols, and this cardiac repair, ... She paused, examining Dr. Kellerman's condition. This is field surgeon-level trauma surgery. Elena froze. Dr. Chen looked at her. I need to know. I spent 3 years as a flight surgeon with Special Operations Command in Afghanistan. The recognition in her eyes was immediate and undeniable. Sergeant Elena Rodriguez, 5th Special Forces Group. Elena instinctively stood at attention. Yes, ma'am. I thought you looked familiar. I treated some of your patients in Kandahar. Your reputation preceded you even there. Sandra's mouth fell open. You two know each other? Dr. Chen turned to Sandra. Your partner isn't just a cafeteria worker. She's one of the most skilled combat surgeons the Army ever trained. The intervention she performed tonight saved a life that would have been lost with standard civilian protocols. She turned back to Elena. The question is, why are you working as a cafeteria worker instead of practicing surgery? Elena's answer came quietly. Because I couldn't save them all, ma'am, and I needed to find a place where I could focus on saving instead of fighting. On the way out of the cafeteria, Sandra was unusually quiet. Finally, she spoke. Elena, we've worked together for 8 years. We've been through everything together, and I knew nothing about who you really are. Elena stopped in the corridor, looking straight ahead. The person you know is who I really am, Sandra. The military stuff. That's who I used to be. But these skills, this knowledge, you could save lives as a surgeon. You could train other doctors. Instead, you're working night shifts in a hospital cafeteria. I saved plenty of lives here, too. But why hide it? Why not use your full potential? Elena was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. January 18th, 2016. Syrian border. I had 6 wounded soldiers and equipment for 3 surgeries. Sandra waited. I saved 5. But the 6th, Tommy Hernandez, 19 years old, a kid from Ohio. He died in my arms because I couldn't do enough. Elena leaned against the wall. Her hands were trembling slightly. That night, I realized that in combat medicine, you always make impossible choices. Who to treat first, who gets the limited supplies, who lives and who dies. She turned to Sandra. I swore I'd never be in that position again. Here, as a cafeteria worker, I save who I can save. No impossible choices. I don't leave anyone behind. Sandra reached out and touched her shoulder. Elena, you can't save everyone, but that doesn't mean you should limit how many people you can save. Maybe. But Tommy Hernandez follows me every day. Every life I save now is for him. The next week, everything changed at Metropolitan Hospital. Word about Elena's background had spread quietly through the emergency services community, not as gossip, but as a mark of respect. Other veterans began coming forward. There was a former Marine sergeant in the fire department, 3 former military medics at the hospital. Elena realized she wasn't alone in carrying invisible skills and hidden trauma. Dr. Chen approached Elena with an offer. Would she consider training civilian first responders in advanced trauma techniques? Think about it, she said. You could multiply your impact. Every person you train could save lives using techniques you learned in war. Elena was hesitant, but Sandra encouraged her. She's right, Elena. You're hiding your light under a bushel. Maybe it's time to let it shine. A month later, Elena received a letter that changed everything. It was from Tommy Hernandez's mother. Dear Elena, it read, the Army told me what you tried to do for my son. They also told me about the lives you've saved since leaving service. Tommy would be so proud of you. You honor his memory every day, and I want you to know that if his sacrifice opened the path for you to save all these other people, then it wasn't in vain. Elena cried when she read those words. 6 months after that night, Elena Rodriguez was running a new program called Combat to Civilian, training first responders in advanced trauma techniques developed in military medicine. She still worked as a cafeteria worker, but now she also taught. Every weekend, she shared her knowledge with police officers, firefighters, and civilian medics. These techniques, she would tell her students, were developed to save lives under the worst possible conditions. In civilian settings, they can work miracles. Sandra became her assistant instructor, helping bridge the gap between military precision and civilian care. Elena doesn't just teach techniques, she would say. She teaches the mindset of never giving up on a patient. The program expanded. Elena trained trainers who trained others. The techniques spread first statewide, then regionally. Every person trained was another way to honor Tommy Hernandez's memory. But the most important moment came when Elena received a call from Afghanistan. Sergeant Rodriguez, this is Corporal Johnson. You saved my life in Kandahar in 2014. I wanted you to know, because of you I became a medic. I'm here now, saving lives, using the techniques you taught me. Elena closed her eyes and smiled. The circle was complete. Today, Elena Rodriguez still works in the Metropolitan Hospital cafeteria department, still works the same shifts with the same dedication. But she no longer hides who she is. A small photo hangs on the cafeteria wall, Elena with her field surgical team in Afghanistan. Below it, a plaque. Our past experiences form the foundation of our present service. Every week, new trainees come to Elena's education program. Doctors, nurses, paramedics, all learning techniques developed in war conditions. The most important lesson, Elena tells them, isn't technical. It's the mindset of never giving up. Every patient can be saved until they draw their last breath. And somewhere in Ohio, Tommy Hernandez's mother continues to receive thank you letters for every life saved in her son's name. Elena's desk has Tommy's photo on it, no longer a source of guilt, but of inspiration. I thank him every day, Elena tells Sandra, because his loss taught me my real mission, not just to save lives, but to train others to save lives. In the quiet corridors of the cafeteria, Elena still works every night, but no longer to hide. Because sometimes the greatest service is to show exactly who you are and use that identity to inspire others. Tommy Hernandez's memory lives on, in every person Elena has trained, every life saved, every door opened. And Elena Rodriguez, former field surgeon, current cafeteria worker, and teacher forever, is exactly where she needs to be. Subscribe to Silent Warriors, because every ordinary person has an extraordinary story. And maybe that quiet person working beside you, talking to you, serving you, once saved lives in the world's most dangerous places. Show them respect. Because real heroes don't have to wear uniforms. Sometimes they just wear cafeteria aprons and continue to serve quietly.